Three most likely Mavericks players to be traded before end of 2023-24 season. The Dallas Mavericks are set to start training camp this Wednesday, September 27th. There were rumors of trades dealing multiple names on the Mavericks roster that they'll take into training camp on Wednesday this past summer, but the Mavericks weren't able to make every move they had hoped for this summer. Jason Kidd was very candid in regard to how much the lineup could possibly change this season in a recent interview with Marc Stein on 97.1 The Freak, and it seems like no one will have a guaranteed prominent role outside of Grant Williams, Luka Doncic, and Kyrie Irving. We'll have to see how drastically the Mavericks' main rotation will change once preseason games begin here soon. But a slew of intriguing additions this offseason via the draft and free agency definitely could spark some consolidation trades here in Dallas this season. That being said, here are the three most likely Dallas Mavericks players to be traded before the end of the season. Richaun Holmes. Richaun Holmes has the opportunity to reclaim his career in Dallas. The Sacramento Kings traded for Domantas Sabonis in 2022, and his role was never the same. On top of that, Holmes was out due to multiple eye injuries throughout the course of the 2021-22 season and only played in 45 games the entire year. Once Holmes returned to the lineup at the genesis of the 2022-23 season, he was poised to rekindle the rebounding and roll cut ability that thrust him into the starting center position that he once claimed. However, with the Kings elevating Alex Len to their backup center position and Domantas Sabonis being featured as the sole big in many Kings lineups last year, Holmes only played in 42 games and saw his role on the team greatly diminished. At only 29 years old, Holmes still likely has a lot more left in the tank than many Mavericks fans are expecting, but he unfortunately only has 2 years left on his contract with a player option in the 2024-25 season. If Holmes plans on declining his player option this upcoming season, he could easily be swung somewhere else before the trade deadline if he reclaims some value. Mid-tier contracts on expiring deals frequently get moved in the NBA, and Dallas was looking to send Holmes to a third team before the draft night trade that saw Dallas acquire Holmes and Olivier Maxence Prosper was made official. Holmes may stick in Dallas if things go well though, and isn't as likely to get moved off the roster before the end of the season as our next two candidates. Maxi Kleber. Maxi Kleber had one of his more underwhelming seasons in recent memory this past season for the Dallas Mavericks. To his credit, Kleber suffered a torn hamstring in mid-December that derailed his season pretty handily, as Dallas wouldn't see him return until after the All-Star break. However, upon returning to action, Kleber's play seemed like it was in flux for the majority of the rest of the season. He'd have games where he looked like the stabilizing factor for Dallas, anchoring down on opposing bigs and hitting big three-point shots on the other end. But more often than not, Maxi looked a step too slow on defense and much more stale on offense. Kleber only attempted 4.6 field goals per game last season, his lowest number since his rookie season. This comes with him still playing about 25 minutes per game, which is arguably a more expansive role than he'll be playing this season for Dallas. Kleber looked hesitant offensively in situations where he normally would be a bit more decisive and confident. Kleber is the true hallmark of a 3-and-D big in today's NBA, but his offensive role was diminished to a low enough point last year to where that's nearly all he did. The Mavericks ran much fewer pick and rolls with Maxey last year, and he rarely finished at the rim or pulled up for a mid-range jump shot when attacking off a closeout. We can likely attribute Kleber's offensive deficiencies to his confidence going down mentally post-injury, plus the fact that the torn hamstring likely hindered his explosiveness. However, Kleber isn't getting any younger and will be 32 in January of this upcoming season. The Mavericks have a bullpen of centers currently, and while Kleber's skill set is a luxury to have off the bench, he may very well be expendable if Dallas brings in another defensive-oriented center that is of starting caliber in a trade. The Mavs mustn't overexpend Kleber like they have in years past. He's a good role player but shouldn't be delegated too many responsibilities at this stage in his career. At an $11 million figure next year, Kleber's contract is relatively tradable if he plays decent. Dallas may very well look to consolidate him for another big, but he's still not as likely to be off the team by the end of the season as much as our last candidate. Tim Hardaway Jr. Tim Hardaway Jr. has been rumored in a potential trade away from Dallas practically since he got here in February of 2019. However, Hardaway's trade value always seems to be hard to gauge, as his streaky play causes his trade value to fluctuate throughout different junctures of the regular season. The Mavericks have had opportunities to trade Hardaway Jr. when he was in the midst of playing well multiple times throughout the last few seasons. Hardaway Jr. has remained a consummate professional despite his name being mentioned in trade rumors throughout his time in Dallas, but the Mavericks are simply too overstaffed at guard, and Hardaway Jr.'s contract is just too tradable to not consolidate for a center. Hardaway Jr. was mentioned in trade rumors earlier this summer, but no groundwork has materialized into a deal yet as training camp approaches this Wednesday. The 2022-23 NBA season was one of reclamation for Hardaway Jr. after he missed the Mavericks' 2022 playoff run. Hardaway Jr. restored his three-point shooting last season to a clip of 38.5% after only shooting 33.6% from distance in the 42 games he played before a toe fracture kept him out for the remainder of the season in 2022. Hardaway Jr. was an integral component of the Mavericks' offense during the beginning of the year last year, and his shot creation ability and willingness to shoot from anywhere have been sorely needed in Dallas the last few seasons. With Dallas bringing back Seth Curry though, they had yet another offensive-oriented guard off the bench. Not to mention that Jaden Hardy hopes to take a sophomore leap, and the Mavericks have some intriguing young two-way players at guard as well. By no means is Hardaway Jr. expendable, but with how bad Dallas still needs a true starting caliber center, he's certainly the most likely candidate to be shipped out by the end of the season out of anyone on the roster, given his tradable $17.8 million salary he's set to make next season, as well as the Mavericks having an abundance of guards. Head coach Jason Kidd recently unveiled his high expectations for Hardaway Jr. this season, so maybe he isn't dealt after all, but we'll see.